Well, right after Huawei has launched their Huawei P30 Pro last year, which by the way, they are very famous for their zooming capabilities. So now most of the smartphone makers are trying to push their zooming to the next level. So apparently Samsung and Oppo have both launched their flagship smartphone for 2020 this year, and they are the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra and also the Oppo Find X2 Pro. But are they as good as the first Huawei P30 Pro? Well, we'll find out on today's video. Okay, so before we get right into our camera comparison, of course we need to talk about the specs of each devices. So first up, we have the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra. It has a 108 megapixel main camera. It also has a 48 megapixel telephoto camera which offers 100 times digital zoom. It also has a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera and also a TOF sensor for you to take all the really nice bokeh shots. And for selfies, it has a 40 megapixel camera. Then we have the Oppo Find X2 Pro. So this device has a 48 megapixel main camera. It also has a 48 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, which I think this is the first for like smartphones to have such high megapixel, wide angle camera. And also a 13 megapixel telephoto camera, which offers 50 times, which offers 60 times zoom, digital zoom. Okay. And for the third sensor, it's a 13 megapixel telephoto camera which allows you to zoom in 60 times digital zoom. And at the front, it has a 32 megapixel selfie camera. So last but not least, we have the Huawei P30 Pro. So this device comes with a 40 megapixel main camera, a 20 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, and it has an 8 megapixel telephoto camera for you to zoom in as close as 50 times, and also a TOF camera. It also has a 32 megapixel selfie camera. So that's all the camera spec you will need to know for all these devices. But what about the outcome? Are they as good as they claim to be? Well, we'll find out on today's video. So we've covered a couple of interesting tests for this comparison, and that includes zooming, of course, the portrait mode, selfies, high-res pictures, and a couple of things that I think you should know about them. Well, without further ado, let's get into the comparison. First up, of course, we are going to try out the zoom capability of all three devices. We took photos at each of the devices' preset zoom ranges, and at the end you also get to see each phone's max zoom, which is one of the more interesting parts of this comparison. We will start off with the ultra wide angle test. If I have to pick one as a winner, I would choose the one taken from Oppo. I know some of you might think that the P30 Pro and the S20 Ultra produces a more natural looking picture. Yes, I agree on that, but I like the vibrant and lively colors from the Find X2 Pro. It has bluer skies, greener green, and overall it makes the pictures pop, which is how I like it. At 1x and 2x, similar results were shown. The X2 Pro's picture has more vibrancy to it, while the other two have a more natural looking photo. So it really depends on your personal preference for this case. Things start to get a little bit different when all three devices hit 30 times zoom. When it comes to clarity, I think all three devices are pretty comparable. But one of the more significant differences that I can tell is their exposure. For some reason, the Find X2 Pro's photo is way darker, while the S20 Ultra is much brighter and closer to what the scene looked like on a sunny day. This also makes the colors on the Find X2 Pro much darker compared to the vibrant tones in the other two photos. Next up, we have the 50 times zoom, and in case you don't already know, that's the maximum zoom that the P30 Pro can go. To be very frank, I think the P30 Pro has the best image quality. Because if you were to compare with the other two phones, the X2 Pro, like I said, it's darker, and if you look closely, there are some noticeable grains going on the sky. While the colors look great on the S20 Ultra, the noise on the image is pretty significant. And that is why the P30 Pro here is my winner. Moving on, we have the 60 times zoom. The Find X2 Pro has a max zoom of 60 times, so that is why I've tried to emulate the 60 times zoom on the S20 Ultra since it can zoom up to 100 times. Yes, it sounds amazing, but I'll get back to you on that. By now, you guys might already know what are the things that you should take note when you are comparing pictures. And it is quite obvious which smartphone I think takes the best in this category. Yes, it is the Find X2 Pro. Even though the outcome is a little bit dark, the Find X2 Pro picture has less grain compared to the S20 Ultra. Take a look at the Zoom Lion text. The Z on the S20 Ultra looks a little distorted and weird, while the X2 Pro looks just fine. But the Find X2 Pro's photo is also less sharp because they are very aggressive with removing noise, so the photo ends up very soft. Last but not least, I've compiled all three smartphones' max zoom side by side to give you a better look at the zoom range for each and one of them. It is nice to see that you are able to capture a subject that far with the S20 Ultra, but in terms of the quality, well, I'm not as impressed. But do let me know what you think about them. Moving on to the portrait test, I think it is pretty obvious which picture here is my least favorite. Yes, it is the Huawei P30 Pro. The softening on the image is too aggressive and the shadows are way too harsh. The S20 Ultra's background is a little overexposed, but the edge detection is pretty good. But to me, the Find X2 Pro takes the best photo out of these three phones. The background is well exposed, the subject separation is awesome, and it did an excellent job capturing the details of my hair. Besides that, we have also taken this opportunity to compare the main camera of all three smartphones. This set of pictures were taken on each smartphone's highest res mode, with the P30 Pro at 40 megapixel, the Find X2 Pro at 64 megapixel, and the S20 Ultra at 108 megapixel. And you've guessed that right, the photo from the 108 megapixel camera did look more detailed. When you punch it into the S20 picture, it looks way sharper than the others. But I have to say that the shadows on the S20 Ultra are a little underexposed, while the P30 Pro's photo is closest to what I remember the scene looked like on that day. But if I had to pick a winner, I'll choose the Find X2 Pro because not only the pictures are sharp, it also strikes a nice balance between its colors with good dynamic range. We also have the opportunity to take a close-up shot of the full moon that day. The reason why we did this is because the Huawei P30 Pro has a feature called Moon Mode, where it uses its periscope-like zoom lens and AI algorithms to create these images of the moon. And also, we want to see how the other two phones can compete with it. Do note that this set of images were taken without a tripod and at 50 times. And as expected, the P30 Pro has the best outcome thanks to AI. The X2 Pro did quite a decent job as well, but the moon texture is not as clear as the one on the P30 Pro. The S20 Ultra on the other hand has the worst quality. I think it's because Samsung did not add in any dedicated moon mode like the P30 Pro. Last but not least, we have the selfie portrait test. My winner for this category is the S20 Ultra. The colors are nice and vibrant and my skin tone looks well exposed and natural. I usually don't mind a little beautification on my selfie, but the ones taken on the P30 Pro is a little too aggressive for my liking. My skin is super smooth and it seems like I have blusher on my cheeks. But besides beautification, the subject separation from the background of all three images are pretty awesome. The background is nicely blurred without any compromises. Well, over the course of the past few years, smartphone camera technology has evolved more significantly than any other feature of our devices. If you asked me 2 years ago, I would have never imagined that a smartphone could zoom in 100 times digitally, and there's no way that a smartphone could fit in a 108 megapixel sensor. But here we are looking at the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra, which I have to say it's an amazing smartphone camera. Yes, it might lack in certain aspects, but the pictures are much more natural compared to the other two phones in this comparison. Besides that, you can zoom in as close as 100 times, and the best part about it is that it comes with this viewfinder where you can track a subject when you're zooming in. But the Oppo Find X2 Pro is no slouch either. The pictures are punchier and more colorful compared to the other two, and to me that's not a bad thing. You can definitely save some time when you want to post these pictures on social media because they are good to go straight out from the camera. So that is why the Oppo Find X2 Pro is the winner for me in this comparison. Since the Huawei P30 Pro is a 2019 flagship, I couldn't really say much about it. But I have to point out that they are the first company to introduce a smartphone that could zoom in as far as 50 times, and that's really impressive. And I'm pretty excited to see the Huawei P40's camera capability. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already, and also click on the notification bell icon so you can stay updated to our future videos. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!